SKOL'd to the bowl. Whole lot of SKOL'd gang on this one. Yeah. Hey. SKOL'd gang, SKOL'd gang, SKOL'd gang, SKOL'd gang, SKOL'd gang, SKOL'd gang, SKOL'd gang. SKOL'd on the way to the bowl, man. My team about to go get a ring. We don't care what your team doing, man. They ain't messing with the perp gang. It's our year, time to get this ring. Bring it home back to the SKOL'd gang. SKOL'd gang, SKOL'd gang, SKOL'd gang, SKOL'd gang, SKOL'd gang, SKOL'd gang, SKOL'd gang. SKOL'd on the way to the bowl, man. My team about to go get a ring.
What's going on, everybody? It is great to have you with us. This is A Day with Mike and Kyla, and this is a Purple and SKOL'd media production where we just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl just once before we die, just once. And they finally did it. They finally made that move that's going to bring the Lombardi Trophy to Minnesota. They signed Dalton Risner. Okay, maybe not Lombardi after just Dalton Risner, but after 2.5 months of us begging, actually about 5 years begging for them to fix the interior of the offensive line, the Vikings finally make the move. Kyla, we'll start with you. How are you feeling about this move today?
Well, I'm glad that we're finally admitting that we made a mistake not signing him earlier. The fans bullied, in my opinion, Kwesi into doing the right thing. But hey, at the end of the day, they did the right move. I'm excited he's on the team. Pumped, relieved.
Mike, 0-2 with 7 turnovers to start this season and obvious issues on the offensive line here, both in the running game and at times the pass protection. Your initial thoughts on the Dalton Risner sign-in here?
Yeah, I'll see 1-year deal, up to $4 million, 2.25 guaranteed. I love it. And some will say it reeks of desperation. That may be true, but honestly, I don't care, and I'll explain why. Rick Spielman never in his entire life would have made this type of move. The fact that they're willing to move off of Ed Ingram when they just drafted him a year ago, I can at least appreciate the willingness to accept reality. Now, obviously, we've talked about this for months now. Kwesi has to draft better in the future years for this team to be relevant, right?
Absolutely.
But I like that they're accepting the fact that he's not good, because we know in previous years, Rick Spielman would have continued to trot out the Drew Samias, the Ed Ingrams in this case. Obviously, he didn't draft Ingram, but you get my point. You know, the right. TJ Clemens type guys.
Tom Compton.
I'm so relieved that they actually are making a signing that will improve this interior offensive line for the first time in Cousins' tenure in Minnesota, which is crazy to say. But I'm glad I could finally stop saying they won't sign an entire interior offensive lineman because they were scared about the Alex Boone signing.
Well, the only thing that I'm going to say about this signing is this. First off, shout out to our boy Rap. Shout out to Yogi. Shout out Davey Change in the building as well. Would you rather have Drew Samir? No, of course not. The only thing I'm going to say is this. I understand making penny pinching, fiscally responsible salary cap moves, which is what this was. They waited for the price to come down because he was probably asking for $6, $7, $8 million and wanted to be the starter right away. Okay, so you waited him out, and now you got him for $2.25 up to $4. You've also missed out on the time of him being in training camp, learning the playbook, getting used to his offensive line mates, getting used to the play calls, getting used to Kirk Cousins and his cadence. Again, if this move had been made in August, I'd be jumping up and down saying, let's go. Now, am I happy that they did something to address an obvious need? Absolutely. Of course I am. But I'm a little kind of, all right, maybe a day late, dollar short. Sorry if that comes across as negative, folks. I'm just being realistic here that if you had signed Dalton Risner, you might be 2-0. Now, you can say, well, if we didn't turn the ball over 7 times, we might be 2-0, and that's very well true, and that might have alleviated some of that. Maybe, maybe not. But having said that, let's review that Philly game. We had opportunities. Can't yell at Justin Jefferson all that much. He's trying to make a football play, but boy, oh boy, that fumble at the end of the first half really turned the momentum. Mike, I'll start with you on this. Your reaction to the Philly flop part 5, 6, 7, whatever it is at this point.
What hurts about this game, at least in my opinion, compared to the game of Monday Night Football the same week last year, week 2, they played a lot better. It was just, again, these boneheaded dumb mistake. You cannot do that. You cannot turn the ball over 6 times in the first half of 2 weeks. You will not win that way. You just won't.
Right.
I think what upsets me most, Justin, I'm the furthest thing from a Kirk Crusader. I give him credit when he deserves it, and I criticize when that's warranted as well. You've wasted 2 of his best performances he will give you all year. You absolutely have. Statistically, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, over 700 yards. And again, some will say, some of it was garbage time. I don't fully agree with that, but whatever.
Well, a little bit.
But back onto the Reisner point, too. I do want to touch on this before I forget. If you signed Reisner in August, you beat Tampa Bay. Because that play with Ed Ingram alone, just a week 1. But back on the Eagles game, what hurts me, no pun intended, is the way they played against Jalen Hurts. He only threw for 198 yards.
Yeah.
You would have, if I had told you or Kyla that on Thursday morning, you wouldn't have believed me, and I wouldn't have believed myself, to be quite frank. Now, again, they ran the ball very well, but the defense is getting screwed over here. Let's make no bones about it. They are playing far better than they did just a year ago, and they're 0-2. It's not good. It's unfortunate. One last thing. KJ Osborne, you're done.
We're going to get to that. We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll circle back to that. That's on the list. That's on the list. Kyla, your thoughts on Thursday?
I had a couple coworkers not happy with me on Friday because when they were putting their bets in for the game, I was like, no. The Vikings aren't going to lose by 7. They're going to lose by 24 points.
Oh.
And that is the frustrating thing. I was all around happy with how they kind of came out and played. Not obviously the turnovers were atrocious, but I did not really give them a chance at all going into Philadelphia on a primetime game and winning that game. And it was so disappointing because we should have won that game. They're their own worst enemy, through 2 weeks. We should be 2-0, and it's their own fault. It's not like they're getting outplayed. They're just turning the ball over countlessly, and it's just insane. And yeah, it doesn't help. I do agree. I think our DBs look much better this year. I'm enjoying the floors being more aggressive, blitzing more, but our run defense is woof. And it was hard for the Vikings to even get back on the field at points of the games because Philly, all they had to do was just run it down our throats all game. Took so much time off the clock. But I'll say this about the defense. The defense in the first halves of games has deserved better. Now they've gotten worn down, and then they haven't been able to get crucial stops. In the Tampa game, it shouldn't have been 10-10. It should have been 21-10, 24-10, whatever. And then you can live with what happens because you've built yourself a margin of error. In the Philly game, if Jefferson holds on to that and goes in and scores, it's still 14-13 at half because if he scores there, Philly has the same amount of time to do what Philly did to get that last field goal at the end of the half. But at some point, the only thing I'm going to say, because again, I will take this defense over last year's defense 10 times out of 10. They made a concerted effort to say, we are not going to let Jalen Hurts throw for 370 yards on us. We are not going to let Jalen Hurts rush for 100 yards against us. But it came at the cost of letting Swift just go berserk against us. At some point in the middle of the second half, you have to adjust to say, okay, we've been playing this way to keep it close, to keep Jalen Hurts from going off on us. We can't keep doing this because we're picking our poison, and this poison is killing us, so we might need to take a different poison and see where we're at. Now, where I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, Mike, and again, this isn't putting fault on the offense or fault on the quarterback, but when you're down 20 points, it's not garbage, but it's not like non-garbage either. And I'll say it like this. They get the ball down 20 points, beautiful drive, beautiful pass to Jordan Addison, beautiful blocking. How about that? And beautiful play call. They set up a fake wide receiver tunnel screen to Justin Jefferson with Hawkinson and Osborne over there. The offensive line blocked it up well. Kirk stepped up and threw a bomb down the field. Okay, cool. Now you're down 13 points. The defense gives you a 3 and out.
and gives you the ball right back. And then our offense goes 3 and out. And that's where the door was pretty much slammed, because now Philadelphia just needs to hold serve the rest of the game. Even if the Vikings defense had managed to get a stop. And again, I'm not letting them off the hook for putting freaking DJ Wanham on AJ Brown on a 3rd and 10. I thought we got rid of that with the Ed Donashell portions. But all I'm going to say is this. There's nothing about Kirk Cousins' performance that has anything to do with this loss. So, no, I won't listen to anybody say, Kirk primetime this. No, that's lazy. There are times where that narrative had some truth to it. This past Thursday in Philadelphia is not one of those times. So we'll just leave it at that. Now, to me, the biggest problem right now is this running game doesn't exist.
No.
We can talk about the defense giving up all kinds of rushing yards, and yeah, that's not good. And yeah, they're tired because they're on the field. The time of possession was 2-1, basically 38 minutes to 22. I mean, what do you expect from this defense? Any defense is going to get worn out. They're on the field that much. I don't want to hear about, the Vikings should have kept Dalvin Cook. Their running game is nothing without him. Like Dalvin's ass, with all due respect, would not be doing any better.
He's actually doing worse in New York right now. I looked at it today.
Yeah.
His yards per carry is actually worse than Madison right now by a yard.
Yeah, so let's stop with this nonsense about how Dalvin Cook is the missing piece. Kyla, I'll start with you. I know we just got done talking about Dalton Reisner, and hopefully, again, Reisner's claim to fame, so to speak, was that he was a much better pass blocker than he was run blocker. But at this point, I don't think he can be any worse than whichever guard he takes over for. KOC's got to get the ball to his running backs. 11 carries in game 1 for Alexander Madison, and 8 in game 2. That's not enough. Talk to me, Kyla. About
I
this
agree with you. Like, we can put blame on Madison. Fine if you want to. But yes, I think Kevin OC has got to get him comfortable, just keep giving him the ball. Don't get away from it. But also I feel bad for him, because what is he supposed to do with that rush blocking from our O-line? It's non-existent. I'm not watching him and seeing any big misses from Addison at this time. He's got nowhere to go. It's an issue. I'd also like to see Ty Chandler get some more snaps with that as well, but it's concerning. It's definitely concerning. If a team covers us well, and JJ and Addison are covered, and we have to kind of resort going to the run game, I don't see how we would win a game with that. It's bad through 2 weeks.
I'm not saying give him 25 carries a game, but you got to at least let him get lathered up a little bit. And at the end of the day, you are also then putting your offensive line in a bind by always pass blocking. Mike, what the heck are they going to – again, I know just signed Dalton Reisner. We just talked about that. But beyond that, what do we need to do to get this run game somewhat effective to be able to take some pressure off the passing?
I might as well be a little bit sarcastic and start out with, why don't we sign the other guy we had a visit with in Kareem Hunt? That'd be a start. I know that's not going to happen.
Would he do any better?
No, he would, yeah. Because Madison can catch the ball. And I want to say this, since we're on Alexander Mass, the disgusting comments he had to deal with.
I wasn't even going to bring it up. I don't want to give it the time of day.
I'm so sorry he had to go through that. But on Madison, football perspective, right? He's, like you said, he's the type of running back that gets better in the fourth quarter, right? Where gets more carries. We got to get him the ball more. Just straight up. They got to get him the ball more. But I'm not buying into this Ty Chandler RB2 stuff. I said it to you, Justin, for a while, right? Back in the preseason. I was not sold on it. And though he was playing well in preseason, he had never played running back in the NFL when it matters. Right. You cannot rely on guys who were only doing it in the preseason last year and this year to perform for you as RB2. It was a huge risk, and clearly it's burning them right now in the butt. I'm worried, but I also do want to say they went against Tampa Bay's defensive line, which has looked pretty good so far through 2 weeks. They beat, down Chicago pretty bad. They're 2-0 now. And Vita Vea is one of the best defensive tackles in the entire NFL. I get why they've struggled to stop it with the run game, because Philly, I think, has the best defensive line in all of football, especially against the run. So I get it. But these next 2 weeks are crucial. If you can't do it against the Chargers and the Panthers, who are not been good against the run this season, then we legitimately have problems. I do want to throw one last thing out here. about the Eagles game that I forgot to mention. Theo Jackson is now officially head of Lewis Cine too. It's just time to say Lewis Cine. It's done, buddy.
Yeah,
he's relegated to fourth string, and he's relegated to special teams at this point. I mean, him and Andrew Booth Jr. I've said my piece on Booth Jr. Yes, when Metellus went out, I'm like, okay, Lewis, this is your time. Oh, no, it's not your time because you didn't even get in when Metellus went out. It just kind of is what it is with Lewis Cine at this point. Shout out SK in the building. Yeah, SK is like, oh, I guess you guys got this. All right, that's cool. Cine is out of here. Yeah, he's just a depth player at this point, and regardless of how this Reisner signing turns out, or regardless of how the next draft goes, it's pretty much Katie bar the door on that first draft from Kwesi. Aside from the fact that you traded back 20 spots and didn't get enough value in return, we've said that ad nauseum. If you're going to make a trade like that, you needed to get Detroit's first round pick. For a future first round pick include. Again, I didn't like the deal at the time, and I said it at the time in the moment. If you had made that trade but gotten their first round pick next year, then I can live with that. But you left too much money on the table. Putting aside the fact that Cine didn't work out. He didn't work out, and that happens. He's far from the first round bust ever. Kwesi is far from the first general manager to take a swing on a guy in the first round, and it didn't work out. But that's the part that kills me, is that you didn't get enough. I don't care what these new school charts say. You didn't get enough.
No.
Shout out to Evil in the building. What's going on? Cine and Booth equal bust. Yeah, at this point.
I got to say, Justin, we better pray Jamison Williams does not turn into a good NFL wide receiver, because if that happens, I know it's already really bad, but then they will just make it worse.
I mean, at this point, it just kind of is what it is. At this point, don't keep throwing good money after bad. At this point,
agreed.
Move on. If somebody offers you a 5th round pick for the guy because they lose a safety and they think that they can make something out of him, you take it and you move on with the rest of your life. That being said, is this coming game against the Los Angeles Chargers of San Diego, is it a must-win game? It's week 3. You start 0-2. You hear all of these, only 11% of the teams that start 0-2 have made the playoffs. Well, first of all, that stat needs to be changed to 0-3 because you've got an extra game and you've got extra playoff spots. So 0-3 is now the 0-3 is the new 0-2 as far as I'm concerned. But to me, I say that this is a must-win game because you've got a game against Carolina after that. You got to win both of those games and get back to 500, because then you go Kansas City, Chicago, and San Francisco, and you got to figure you're going to lose at least 2 of those games. So, Kyla, I'll start with you. Is this a must-win game, or can they recover if they lose this game?
Absolutely, it's a must-win game. We're playing at home against a team who's also 0-2 and has also had some struggles. We got gifted the rest of the weekend with Green Bay, Detroit, and Chicago also losing.
Yep.
I mean, if we win it's just a whole new ball game with the division, and we have to take care of business next week, and we have to take care of business against Carolina, because not that Kansas City has looked all that great, but I still don't like our chances. Us beating them, and I definitely don't see us beating the Niners. They're just a straight up better team than we are. Mm-hmm. And as far as the Bears go, divisional games, you just never know. So I think this weekend is a must win. I think next weekend is a must win for sure.
Mike?
No, Kyla nailed it perfectly, spot on. No, it absolutely is a must. You cannot go 0-3. And I will agree with what you also said, Justin. The next 2 games, you got to win. Get to 2-2. By week 5, Kansas City heads to Minnesota and see what happens from there. But you've got to put yourself in position where you're 2-2. Then you're right back in the division race. You're 2-2 with the way, and you know this, Justin. I have given Detroit so much credit. I could not believe after beating Kansas City they lost to Seattle, but I'm glad they did.
I don't know how you did not see that coming. That's exactly what I said in my preview show on my channel. It would be so Vikings to lose to the Buccaneers and then beat the Eagles. Of course, they didn't do that. But it is so Detroit to go into the defending champion's house on opening night, pull off the upset, and then give it right back. Now, again, Seattle's a halfway decent team. I keep telling people that Seattle is
They're
probably
not terrible.
They're not going to win that division, but they're going to give San Francisco a run for it. But the Detroit Lions, oh yeah, Jared Goff. Okay, yeah, nice pick six there. But I digress. All I'm going to say is this. It's not literally a must win. It's a must win because if you lose, you literally have zero margin for error for the rest of the season. You need this game in the worst way possible.
And can miracles happen? They can, but you should not be relying on that.
Yeah, this team, again, we used up a lot of miracles last year, and this team is not known for getting many miracles in the first place. So, no, it's ostensibly, is it a must win? Yes. Is it literally? No, but for all intents and purposes, I'll put it like this. I had said that even the pessimistic side of me would say in the first 7 games, they would go 3-4. I had them winning against Tampa, Carolina, and the Chargers. I had them losing originally against the Bears because, like you said, Kyla, things happen in division games and things always happen to the Vikings in Soldier Field. So I had them going 3-4, but then I had them going 4-1 in the next 5 games to get to 7-5 at the bye week. Okay, you lost to Tampa Bay, which means now you've got to get the game against the Chargers, the Panthers, and you've got to get the game against the Bears just to get to 3-7 after the 7-week mark. Because again, theoretically, the schedule does become easier. You got Green Bay, you've got Atlanta, although they don't look half bad. Then you've got the Saints, Denver, and the Bears. You can go 4-1 in that stretch. So yes, you've got to win the next 2 games. Otherwise, Katie bar the door at that point. Start making phone calls to see if anybody wants, Danielle Hunter. Go to Kirk and say, hey, we're not re-signing you after this year. Do you want to finish this out or do you want us to send you somewhere? Again, I'm only saying that if they lose the next game or 2, but you've got to win these next 2. Otherwise, it's not just an uphill battle to climb. It's Mount Everest at that point.
Yeah. Even with the 7th seed. No, I absolutely agree. Like,
I don't care about the 7th seed.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying, well,
right.
If they start out 1-3, they can still make the playoffs. We've talked about this. I don't want to just get into the dance because if you get in as a 7th seed, yes, I know the Wolves will say that the Giants won a Super Bowl, the 6th seed, blah, 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 blah.
Whatever.
That is a literal miracle, all right? You don't rely on that.
Mm-hmm.
This season is massive for many players. We know that. If they get to 2-2, they can get back to where we'd hope they could go, which is competing legitimately for the North and then seeing from there. These next 2 games are absolutely crucial.
No, I totally agree. That being said, those Dirty Birds, first off, SKOL'd Dirty Birds for beating the Green Bay Packers yesterday. We always love that one. But this Bijan Robinson kid, he might break Adrian Peterson's record against us if we don't show her up. We talked about our run defense earlier, but my God, that guy is good.
I drafted him first overall in fantasy. I'm loving Bijan.
Shout out Joker Nation in the building. What's going on? I never shouted you out, Gil. I put your comments up, but let me get a shout out to Gil in here as well. SK, they finally have addressed what we've been asking for forever. Yeah, they finally did. The only thing I'm going to say is he going to be a little bit rusty? I mean, you don't just walk in off the street and in tip-top shape. He can say he's been working out and doing everything else. Again, the only drawback to this is that it should have been done sooner, and we missed out on having him ready for week 1, much less ready for week 3. But hey, we'll take it. We've been begging for it. We'll take it. Yes, the Bears look absolutely putrid. This whole division looks putrid, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it does.
We don't have any wins outside of you got the Detroit win over Kansas City. But other than that, the only other win is the Packers win over the Bears.
Chicago. Yeah. I got to say.
9 wins might win this division.
I don't know about that, but it's not been a pretty start. I will say this. So much for Justin Fields MVP, eh? Like, that was the most cringy stuff in human history.
With that one, or do you want me to? Because I got something.
Honestly, I do want to say though. One last thing about Don Reiser, and this is random, but I mentioned in my spaces. If Don Reiser is actually a above average pass blocking guard, he's probably going to the Pro Bowl, right? Like we're just going to vote him in droves. Like they're just going to fly in the votes. Would you not agree?
Say that one more time. You broke up. I'm sorry.
If Don Reisner, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. Yes.
Okay. If Don Reiser is just an above average pass blocking guard, he is walking into the Pro Bowl. The amount of Viking fans that will get that to blow up, because I remember for Chris Boyd, they did it. And I love Chris Boyd. He's a special teams guy. If Reiser is actually helping Kirk stay upright against top-tier competition, Oh, the amount of Viking fans that are going to vote him to the Pro Bowl will be hilarious. But anyway,
Kyla, your thoughts on the Bears and Justin Fields?
Ugh, sucks. Oh my god. Oh my god. And this
Oh.
sounds so bad. It makes me sound kind of like a biatch. And I don't like wish for players to not do well. And this really has nothing to do with Justin Fields, but he has had a rough start to the NFL. And all off season, all I heard was just Bears fans yapping away about how this guy is going to be the best quarterback in the North. He's taking it over. Just
yeah.
like
King of the North. The King of the
insane,
North.
insane behavior. And so I'm just like, nothing against Fields, but I'm quite enjoying. I think some Bears fans are finally like starting to realize like he ate him and it's not happening. And
It's not even about being
pretty
him.
funny.
It's
No.
he's not even backup with it. I mean,
he's
like
Oh.
Jordan
honorable
Love
backup, but he's not. I don't think as a passer, he is an NFL starting quarterback. I genuinely don't believe that. But one last thing. If you ever wanted to know that the NFL Top 100 list is one of the worst lists in human history, remember, folks, Trevor Lawrence was behind Justin Fields on the Top 100 last season.
yeah.
That's just,
crazy.
and I don't care how you feel about the Top 100 list, that is ridiculous.
No, I totally agree. You know, I've said it a few times, and that gets to Gil's point here. That's the one. I think Justin Fields was plopped into a horrible situation that gave him absolutely no chance to succeed at all. I'm not here to defend Justin Fields because right now he's terrible. Now, if you were to have, say, plopped him into the Vikings with Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson, is it possible that maybe he would have developed? I suppose it's possible, but at this point, the Bears, I'm ready to call it that they made a mistake not taking Anthony Richardson or Bryce Young or CJ Stroud and believing in Justin Fields. I get it. If Justin Fields had worked and then you make that trade, that's the best of both worlds. But right now, it ain't looking good.
I remember, Justin, when it happened, I said to you, I cannot believe they're putting their cards in Justin Fields. Now,
Yeah.
maybe their logic was, we'll go up and get a quarterback this year like Sanders or Caleb Williams or Drake May. That may be the case. And if that happens, then we're speaking a lot more concerned about the Bears in the future.
Right.
But I cannot believe they did that. It's great. They hit the number 1 pick. And then they ended up taking Darnell. What was his name? That
don't even
tackle.
know.
I can't even remember his last name. I want to say Washington, but no, Darnell Wright.
Darnell Wright.
Which is just crazy. You had the number 1 pick. You moved down to take a tackle, and he's not even been that good for them. But the thing, though, I got to say, and I know you're not supposed to judge the helmet, but my God, when is an Ohio State quarterback going to turn out? Like, it's crazy. Well, who was the last good Ohio State quarterback in NFL history? Genuinely, I don't know. Does Joe Burrow count? Because if he doesn't, you're going back a long time, I think. I got honestly look that up. It's crazy.
Well, I had said that the NFC South was going to be the worst division in football, and thus far, I'm happy to report that I am incorrect on such things. Right now, you have a couple of teams in the Falcons and the Buccaneers that have done what they needed to do, which is win both of their games. Now, Atlanta is going to have to go on the road. They had 2 home games. The Buccaneers went 1-1. The Saints and the Panthers are playing right now, so if the Saints win tonight, they'll have 3 teams undefeated. And our division is just so bad right now. And like you said, Jordan Love looked halfway decent. He wasn't able to get a couple of first downs in the fourth quarter. He just needed to get a couple of first downs, and then that game was over, and the Falcons wouldn't have had a chance to ultimately kick that game-winning field goal, but he looked halfway decent. And mind you, they did not have Bakhtiari, and they did not have Aaron Jones, so that needs to be taken into account as well.
Christian Watson, too.
Or Christian Watson. Thank you. That's a good point. Right now, this conference is San Francisco, Dallas, and Philly, and a slew of everybody else. I don't think Atlanta is anywhere close to those 3 teams. I don't think Tampa Bay is either, and I don't think anybody in our division is. Congratulations to the New York Football Giants for actually getting on the scoreboard, by the way. You beat the Cardinals. Congratulations. I couldn't help
I
it.
genuinely thought they were going to lose that game. How pathetic. Daniel Jones should
It's so
honestly pay a massive visit to Ed Donatel's place sometime and just give him a giant hug. My God, he looked rough. And I don't think Jones is terrible. He is not a $40 million a year quarterback.
No.
He's just not.
He absolutely isn't. He better send a few dozen boxes of Christmas meats over to the Donashell household come Christmas time here. But having said all that, we're going to wrap up here in about 5 minutes here. We got the first Monday Night Football game. What's the score? I had it just a moment ago. Well, it's still 3-3 with about 12 minutes left in the second quarter. And the second game is going to start here at its normal time here. So we're going to wrap up here, let you guys get back to the doubleheader there, and remind you, come back at 8:10 Central Time over on Purple and Gold for Days for my show, SKOL'd for Days. Go over the events of this past weekend. The Vikings starting 0-2, signing Dalton Reisner, what they need to do, move forward to get this thing turned around. But I'll start with you, Kyla. We all know it's a must-win game, but what are your actual thoughts? Do you think the Vikings pulled this one out here? Austin Eckler's not he's been ruled out already, or it's unlikely to play, right, Mike?
I thought it was last week. Is that already? I didn't see that report. I don't
know about this week yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think there's anything for this week,
Whether
but
he
he is
plays
going to
or
be
not.
playing injured either way.
Yeah, if he
Yeah.
plays, he'd be playing injured. But Kyla,
They're just as desperate as we are.
they
gonna-
so are the AFC Vikings, by the way.
They really
it's a
are.
running joke that's become true. But go ahead.
We're at home. We're desperate. You know, if I'm the Vikings, I look at the first 2 weeks and be like, you know what? It's completely on us for not being 2-0 right now. Like, they were their own worst enemies through 2 weeks. Clean up those acts. Stop fumbling the balls. Stupid penalties. Get it cleaned up. You're at home. Get it done. And I think they will.
Mike?
I do gotta say, it's a great joke that they're the AFC Vikings. When you really think about it, though, they are a lot different in the sense that they had Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, and Justin Herbert. 3 franchise quarterbacks in a row.
Mhm.
Nothing. It's insane. But
Well,
anyway,
they got to a couple AFC Championship games.
well, was it a 1? I think it was 1
I think
with
it was
Rivers.
2.
I could be wrong. Was it 2?
Oh, I thought
Because
it
they
was
only
2.
lost to Brady in
Yeah.
the one AFC title game where Rivers played with a torn ACL.
No, you're right. They only got to one where they lost to Brady when Phillip Rivers had a torn
Torn
ACL.
ACL.
They were
And he
the
played
one seed.
through it.
They were the 1 seed, but they lost in the division. You're right. I beg your pardon. But either way,
That's
you're
also
right.
vintage Chargers losing as a 1 seed in the division round. But anyway,
Anyway,
I generally think this game, there's no reason we don't win it. And make a statement. You want to go and say you have championship standard? Well, if you have any standard whatsoever, you got to win this football game. As much as I think Herbert's a good quarterback, I don't know about you two. I don't fear Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Gerald Everett. I just don't. I'm not, shivering at those guys. There's no reason we don't run the ball against them effectively. Miami ran all over them just a couple weeks ago. Derrick Henry had his way with the 2, and I get it. Mostert may not be better than Madison, if we're being honest, but peak he was. Obviously, I'm not comparing Madison to Derrick Henry, but it's the same style running back.
right.
You get better as the game goes. There's no reason why we don't look like an efficient running offense. And if that's the case, win the game by 10 and actually stop with these memes of the fourth quarter. We're panicking and just praying we would come out with a win. Like, I'm so done with that.
What are you
Because
talking about?
with us, it always has to come down to the fourth quarter. Let's put a team away. 'Cause I think Tampa Bay week 1 was the greatest example of it. That game never should have been 10-10 at halftime.
No.
And it was. You let them hang around, and then you lost because of it. Take care of business, beat the Chargers, get to 1-2, and then you can worry about beating this Panthers team, who, I mean, if there's ever any more motivation to beat Adam Thielen, I don't know what else I could say. But anyway.
It's kind of unfortunate that we're already at the point where it's just like, you can't lose to the Chargers, have some pride. You can't lose to Adam Thielen. How about we just go out and beat teams because we're supposedly better than them?
Agreed.
But such is life being a Vikings fan. Too Evil to Hope has put in his obligatory Mike. Do you want Mike Zimmerman back, right? They need a guy who's more of a disciplinarian. KOC's too. I will say this about KOC. I like the guy. I like that he changed the culture, but these first 2 weeks are the majority of the blame of these losses go on him. They have been completely undisciplined. They have looked completely unprepared, and they have made zero adjustments. I understand Flores to a certain extent. I will give him a little bit of a pass because he is working with a short deck because he's got absolutely nothing on the defensive line outside of Daniil Hunter. I'm sorry, but right now, Tonga isn't living up to what I thought he would be.
Harrison Phillips is decent. He's trying. The problem is they have he's just a good run stuffing player. But that's what they knew they had him when they signed him.
Lowry hasn't done anything.
Oh, he's awful. Oh my God, is he bad? I think he might be the worst Packer to Viking signing. Like, maybe not ever for money, but my goodness, he's terrible.
I mean, the thing about Dean Lowry was he was playing on a line that had Preston Smith, and he was playing on a line that had Kenny Clark. We don't have a Kenny Clark on our line. And so, again, I have to question, what the heck were you thinking? That if you're going to bring over Dean Lowry, are we trading for Kenny Clark too? Because if not, what do you expect? But
if we're going to yell about money, though, since we're going to talk about bad signings, Marcus Davenport might be one of the worst Viking signings of all time. My goodness!
Whenever he gets on the field. Whenever he gets on the field, he better have like a 3-sack game.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
What bothers me, how did you get hurt in practice before week 1? You didn't take a snap in preseason. Crazy.
About practice.
I know. Not a game.
Not a game. We talking about practice, man. And I don't know. Aside from the fact that I'm still bitter that he took the number 0 away from Ivan Pace, but that's a whole nother conversation that we will spare the audience here tonight. That's going to wrap it for a day with Mike and Kyla. Once again, hit those like buttons on your way out. Share this episode on your favorite aggregators. Come on back to Purple and Gold for Days at 8:10 Central Time, where we running it back all over again. I got a few extra topics to hit there as well. And if you haven't already done so, hit that like button and also hit that subscribe button to Purple and SKOL'd Media. If you're on the Facebook page, hit that like button and share that out with us here. This is a day with Mike and Kyla. We just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl just once before we die. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking for a dynasty. We are asking for just one before we die. Thank you kindly, everybody, for joining us. And SKOL'd to the next episode. Good night.
SKOL.
SKOL.